Miss Lisa Marie Schnaubelt is an educator, poet, epicurean, and MA candidate in SFSU's creative writing program. Her interests include poetry, biking, snark, and fire. She's currently in love with Ariana Reines, except for the fact that Ariana wears see-through shirts because Lisa Marie doesn't feel that Lisa Marie can pull that off. Please welcome Lisa Marie.
Mission hard.
Raise it. It's your life. It's up.
Nope. There.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to read a couple poems and then actually part of the story. The first one's called "Dear Tired Reader." I heard you ask for an anthem, or a fight song, or a hymn, but I only have one line. And even if you don't have the voice for the blues, you can carry the message. Lady knows you hurt, she knows you have those thoughts, and you are not alone in doing so. A cowgirl's work is never done is a line you and I can share, and I swear I won't use it in another poem. It'll wait patiently here. If you click, it will take you to a place where you made the other choice instead of the one you chose. So forgive yourself, because all of the choices are being made all of the time. I repeat, forgive yourself. You did not deny something a life. It will all be work, and I know you know that. I heard this poet talk about the air book that floats above a physical book created from the turning of the pages. Even the turning and the reading of this jagged poem are work, but there is value in the breaths that hang from exhaling. The release as much as the effort is like the heart's work moving our blood. The value lives in that air we can't see or hear, but we can feel it coming in and out. That line is for you to steady yourself, as long as I keep my promise and you are willing to read. Okay. This is called English US Modern, which is a font on my computer. Consider our limited language. No 5 different words to express 5 different types of love. No tone mark to coordinate sound and print. We only have the surrounding hints and dictionaries of self-referential definitions like production, something produced, product. Clueless, like a bad pop song with a lazy rhyme. Tell me, you're so into me. It's Britney Spears, by the way. Often a vagueness that comes from words without a voice behind. Extraction, to obtain despite resistance. That way we put words not in their origins, but outside. I'll extract a promise. The placement to change its violence from physical to psychological. Words plain without accent marks can do so much. Labor, the workers considered as a group, but also the same word, labor. Physical work done using the strength of the body, the way that work becomes the process of giving birth, the production of life. Okay, I'll read this one. It's called it's called Freedom of Speech. The collisions of speech deliver our histories, a knot of symbols tucked into word banks, untied, their tails handed off to tug-of-war, each sound a vine reaching for the thought of another in conversation, unlimited, a tool and not a burden. Freedom of speech. The disassemblage is being freed in silence or in form. An image instead of a phrase, a shape instead of syntax, movement instead of form, as in relieved of, toward the open space, of loss, the minusing, rooted in this quadrant with the potential of going down in that direction we are all afraid of, down, to start over in the world of opposites. It's called Calibration, and I have a couple lines. One is from Jim Jordan. Language is political. And then I also have a quote from Representative Mike Pence that goes, I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order. There is a set of scales for the things we survive that lives in our minds. Along with us, it ages, loses perfect sharpness. With the fatigue of use, we are less sensitive to the increases in weight and removal of choices. We feel the euphemisms, hollow, heavy ideas, tip the scales toward a dangerous imbalance. A bill to cut health services slights women to a gray space of non-choice. Make it about money to make it not about women and sex, afraid of those words and the work it would take to acknowledge them. Okay. This is a story called Splice. It's called Splice because I was kind of thinking about editing and I was hoping to not care a whole lot about the order of the story. Alright. We sleep so late that the grocery store is already closed for the 3-hour afternoon break, and it is not a market day, but we're hungry. Our bed is two twins pushed together with a single teal sheet, but we always end up on one side, pressed together, the other filled with magazines in English and Ben's little bottles of insulin. We have one long glass table that extends along the wall, piled with our video equipment. The ceilings are high and the old walls white, giving the room a brief coolness, an extension to let the heat rise from our bodies and collect above us. When I open the big shutters and windows, that collected heat pours out and the dryness of another hot day bakes the floor tiles within the lines of light. We're at the place that will still sell us a pizza during the afternoon break hours. Ben says, can you give me a shot? I'm getting all this scar tissue from doing it in the same spot. All the cooks and waiters have their eyes on the syringe, but Ben doesn't notice. I lightly pinch the muscle and slide the fine needle into the back of his arm. He doesn't need me to do it, but I'm careful and quick. The conversation we're having again is about the future versus the moment, or what he wants versus what I want, or the intellect versus the body. Mine is waking up each day, looking at Ben and at that woman in the footage of the piazza. Ben's is waking up to me, always up first, and to the project he wants to finish. We move differently inside our constraints. I am planted in my body and he bobs in his mind. I am steady for the future, he is suspended in the moment, but we are both within boundaries. Ben says, you sound mad. I say, I'm not mad, I'm glad you're feeling inspired. I said motivated, not inspired, he says. I say, now you're being like Juan Carlos. He says, no, I'm not, I'm being like you. I pause. I say, I'm glad you're feeling motivated. He says, now you just sound sarcastic. I only have 10 minutes, and what sits fat and heavy behind this conversation is causing a wave of anxiety. I think the wave is actually made of the water in my body. In its crash, I see that low blood pressure fade I get when I stand up too quickly. At the end of each day, the late sunlight washes through our open windows, and I'm leaning on the ledge of one, drinking the butterscotch soy milk we found in individual cartons at the international store. I can see him burning my image into his memory, his past tense, and it worries me to see his focus. He traces my edge down to my hem, my toe, and back to my shielded eyes. I can feel the freezing of the concept of her, a high-contrast image stuck in an open window. It's been 5 days since he's kissed me goodnight, and I don't know how to speak of that without seeming needy. I already know what it means, and that makes us both cowards. Me for allowing unkissed days to accumulate, and him for using inaction as a little shallow dance around the real chasm. But I so badly want him to want us that I am willing to handle this subject like the careful building of a French pastry. Layer, fold, roll, chill, repeat. I'm tired of editing what we're working on. Each night I stare at the same faces and jog slightly between single frames. Only a fragment of movement separates a raising eyebrow or a shadow moving across a cafe tabletop. I know what details matter, how a cut on a somber downward look can show shame, how the number of heavy footsteps and their approaching speed builds anticipation. A woman sits in the background looking down and smiling with one hand on her pregnant belly, and the other steadying herself on the ledge of the fountain as her legs barely reached the ground. Back and forth I bounced the frames, and only strands of her hair moved, her gaze and smile unwavering. Our apartment is so old that to use the electric stove I have to unplug the fridge. We eat all the leftover gelato I made from a mix using 2 forks as a blender. It had more of a shine than most gelato, like it was bound in gelatin instead of the gentle cooked base of the stuff at the gelateria. It was an approximation, but still sweet and cool, and we had laughed while spinning those forks for nearly an hour. He says, "You're too much here. I don't know what happened." I say, "You don't even speak the language. I'm choosing everything for you." He says, "You seem unhappy and I can't handle the guilt." I say, "You can't handle what guilt?" I said, "Pressure," he says. "You said guilt," I say. He says, "Well, I meant to say pressure." I say, "You said guilt and I want to know why." I watched him from a train window, a plane window, a car window, and in the frames of my mind, slippery black strips of film with tiny distant pictures. I repeated him and looked for that slight waver, a tiny fleck of fight, but it's caught in that suspended space between or on those thin lines where there is no emulsion to be imprinted upon. It's warm in the ocean over here, much warmer than the ocean where I'm from. The warmth isn't tropical, but medium and neutral, like a bath for washing delicates. The trees grow roots right next to the water, strong, burly roots that peek out of the dirt and form small landings of earth so that you can lay down on one and feel laced in next to the water. I search for the best one, shaped like a mummy bag, so that there is no unnecessary space around me. I lay there in that tan dust and think only of the tree and its spindly fingers reaching toward the salty water that could not possibly help it sustain. Okay. Okay. I'm trying to end a little bit lighter. And do the last 2. This one's funny, not funny, 1. Some of what I heard on the radio was funny because of the content, like hooking up on a Club Med trip, an addiction to vanilla Coke, and all the different ways to talk shit about how you are a better rapper. Other songs were funny because the rapper's misogyny was so extreme that I only knew how to react by taking it all as a joke, even though it probably was not a joke, or it was complicated humor, because they said things both misogynistic and clever at the same time, like, "We the illest, need a nurse, here's the check, grab your purse, unless we fucking, then I'll pay for all the food on earth, Maine." Or, "E coming on her face." Now that's poetry emotion. This is funny, not funny too. When the boys get clever, I get sad, because I think they must have the space. Problems they encounter so light to let a joke swim like a sperm through beige waters in a race against other jokes. When I am clever, even sarcastic or witty, I jar myself. I know that I can only be quick and light when time and space are paused, nothing but the moment and the language of humor. What a luxury to make a joke. What feels so good about being funny? The building of tension, the way the waiting pulls time like taffy into sweet thinning breaths we wait. The bud of laughter, that release, ha 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 ha. I've been told it's uncouth to write confessional poems, but why are they not more concerned with these categories and the way they cannot be escaped? Too much cleverness makes me think of getting drunk and listening to rap, letting my standards slip so that I'm dipping my ass low all over a dance floor and repeating all of the words and phrases used to turn me into just that image of an ass dipping low all over a dance floor.